Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining me this afternoon. Today on the program, here is where we're going to go. Obviously, we will take your calls at 803-978-1832. If you want to respond on Twitter, just tweet at me at Rob Sounds Good. But we got a couple things we're going to talk about today, including a name that's being floated for the Southern Cal head coaching job. 5 things that South Carolina has to do to beat Kentucky, because there are some things there. Josh Heupel up at Tennessee talking about may they use 2 quarterbacks when they go down to Florida. We'll get into that in a little bit, but we got to start with college football playoff, and there's a couple of nuclear theories that I've come up with that are that make me look at the college football playoff from a different perspective, in that I've said for a while, hey, the idea of 4 is great, but in reality, the more and more I look at it, and once I give you this scenario, you're going to be beating down the doors to the college football playoff committee saying, hey, what the hell are you doing? We need to get to the expansion quick. But the CFP management committee is not going to hold their vote to expand, scheduled for next week in Chicago. Dennis Dodd reports. The news comes after the board of managers made progress during a Wednesday night meeting in Dallas, but was unable to move forward with expansion plans for the time being. I don't know what the big deal is with what the problem is. I mean, you're the college football playoff. You've already shown that you make tons and tons of money. Figure it out. If you can't figure it out, then find people who can. So there's that. I don't understand that. Okay? But in a statement on June 10th, the 4-team format has been very popular and is a big success, but it's important that we consider the opportunity for more teams and more student athletes to participate in the playoff. After reviewing numerous options, we believe this proposal is the best option to increase participation. That's when they said that that they were talking about expanding it to 12 teams. There's that. So right now, they're in a holding session simply because Oklahoma and Texas have decided to leave the Big 12 for the SEC. So that has thrown a hockey stick into the mix. So thanks for that, Oklahoma and Texas. You've screwed up college football, or at least the college football playoff and the ability for it to expand. So I was looking at some at the conference standings this morning, and I joke about SEC apologists, but you know what? I kind of feel bad for the SEC. I think the SEC has 2 of the best teams in the country with Georgia and Alabama, and they theoretically are going to knock each other off because they're probably going to meet in the SEC championship game as long as they can both win their divisions. The sad part is that when you look around the country, there's only 4 spots, and there may not be room for both of them. Why, you say? Because there's several things that can make it, you're going to have to explain some things if you put 2 SEC teams in there and you tell undefeated conference champions, no, you're not going to be able to go. Prime examples of this, we could start with the Oregon Ducks, who, in addition to, if they can win the Pac-12 championship, finish the season undefeated, they took one of their non-conference games, went on the road to Ohio State, and won. So under that, are you going to tell them, look, we're going to put a non-conference champion in the college football playoff over you? Thanks for playing. No, I don't think that's going to work. The other end of it is Penn State. Penn State from the Big Ten. If they roll through their schedule, their non-conference schedule, they had to play a team from the SEC. They won that game at home. Are you going to tell an undefeated Big Ten team that played an SEC team in non-conference play, that's perfect overall on the season, sorry, you can't be in the playoff? No. And the other aspect is the Oklahoma Sooners, who may roll through their schedule and win the Big 12 and go perfect. Now, there are a lot of what ifs here, but the wild card in the mix may be the Cincinnati Bearcats. Cincinnati may roll through their season, and they're going to have a heck of an argument. Hey, we went on the road, we won here, we won there. And then what happens? Are you going to tell them, hey, you scheduled what, Purdue? Or who was it that they had? Oh, Indiana, and you scheduled Notre Dame. You also won your conference. We're not going to put you in the college football playoff. So there are not enough spots. But in the end, you're gonna have to win your conference. And I've said this for a long time. I don't think you belong in the college football playoff unless you win your conference. But this may be the year where someone is going to be left out and they're going to have a legitimate gripe. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is a number to call if you would like to be on the rundown this afternoon. If you let's put it from this perspective. If Alabama wins the SEC and goes undefeated, but they beat Georgia by a field goal in the SEC championship game, if I'm a Georgia Bulldogs fan, I'm not happy. They played a top 10 Clemson team at a neutral site and won that game, lost by a field goal to the SEC champion, and won their division. They have the right to be in the college football playoff. And the reality is that when you step back and look at it, I think that Georgia would probably smoke Oregon. They beat Cincinnati last year. Might be interesting with Penn State. I'm not sure. The Oklahoma offense against the Georgia defense would be something that would be fun to watch. But the reality is that right now, especially with the way things are working out this season, the idea of just 4 teams in the college football playoff doesn't make any sense. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. I'm at the point now where I look at that and I want what's best for college football. And I like the idea of the 4 teams. And I think that means that you're going to have, great teams that are there, and there are what ifs there. But if you're going to tell, undefeated conference champions from Power 5 conferences, which I think, by the way, after this year, the Big 12 is no longer a Power 5 conference. Whatever Oklahoma and Texas leave it, they're not a Power 5 conference anymore. But we can have that conversation later on. But the reality is that right now, I think we need more spots in the college football playoff. And I'm not talking about for the G5 teams. I'm talking about for the really good Power 5 teams that are going to have have a hell of a season, and they're not going to be rewarded for it. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to dial if you'd like to join us here on The Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeart Radio app. We've got several folks joining us in the chat room. Lots of talk about Kentucky and South Carolina, but they're actually just about Kentucky. They're just ripping Kentucky over there. My fault, gentlemen. Kroger Field is a high school stadium. Thank you, Go Bucks. Appreciate that comment. It is kind of weird having your stadium named after a grocery store. I mean, the trolling on that is outstanding. Hey, we're going to go to the game and pick up some milk afterwards. Do they have buggies outside that you can wheel your drunk friends around in? I'm just wondering. Fireball says, honestly, in his opinion, Ole Miss looks like the best team that he's seen this year. Ooh, that's pretty crazy. That's a big statement there. Anyway, 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. When you look at the scenarios that I've given you, undefeated Oregon, undefeated Penn State, undefeated Oklahoma, and undefeated Alabama, undefeated Cincinnati, 1-loss Georgia or 1-loss Alabama, either way, however you want to shake it out. and one of those teams is going to be left out. I don't think that's what's best for college football. 803-978-1832. I bring this wonderful thing about fixing college football. The chat rooms talking about Kroger Field. Any chance Kroger has regretted that decision ever since? Thank you, Beg and Megan. Randall says he thinks Ole Miss beats Alabama in 2 weeks and goes to the SEC championship game. You know, it's a steep road in the SEC West because in addition to beating Alabama, they've got to beat, a top 16 Arkansas team, Texas A&M team that was a preseason, top 10 team. Auburn went up to Penn State and looked pretty good, even though the officials may have screwed them. LSU may still be trying to figure themselves out. I don't know exactly where LSU is. That's a fascinating matchup this weekend, though, with Mississippi State. You know, Mississippi State went into LSU last year, threw for like 600 yards with a quarterback that nobody's ever heard of. And then, blew LSU out at home. Now they're going to have to go down to the land of the cowbell. That's what Mississippi State should call their place, by the way. Everybody calls it, Stark Vegas and all that. No, it should just be land of the cowbell. Just saying. Megan's online and says he's taken Ole Miss to win the West. There's no love for Alabama? Wow. No love for Jimbo Fisher? They really like what Lane Kiffin's doing down there. Speaking of which, that goes into one of the other things I wanted to throw out here today. Paul Feinbaum says he thinks that current Ole Miss coach Lane Kiffin may be the guy for Southern Cal. He was fired 5 games into his 4th season. He was 28-15 overall at the school. But Feinbaum says it's hard for me to believe he would be a serious candidate based on what's happened, but he should be a serious candidate. As good as James Franklin is, and I think James Franklin would be a person to look at, I think Kiffin in some ways would be better. When you really stop and think about it, it was almost like with Lane Kiffin, like there was a big movement that they despised him at Tennessee. Then the stuff that happened out at Southern Cal, it was almost like he was, the hire you didn't want to make. He went down to Coach Saban's, rehab clinic for coaches down there. And all of a sudden, he's always been a great offensive mind. He ends up going out and doing his thing somewhere else, and now he ends up at Ole Miss. But I wonder if that's his last stop. Or is he going to go somewhere else? Or does he want to be in the SEC? That's something to think about, too. Does he want to go back to where he was before and where they pretty much fired him and sent him on his way? Imagine going back to work somewhere else and where they've already fired you. That has to be tough. Anyway, if you want to get into that, 803-978-1832. Also, college football playoff expansion. Do you put a one-loss SEC team into the college football playoff over undefeated teams from the Big 10, Pac-12, and Big 12? Sorry, the ACC is not going to get a team in this year if things go that route. 803-978-1832. Let's go out to the phones. And welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
What's up, Rob? Have you ever been to Oxford?
Once or twice, sir.
The scenery is nice there, sir. Did you happen to notice that?
Yes, sir.
I think old Joey Freshwater is kind of set, if you know what I mean. I think he's found what he's looking for there.
It's one of those jobs there where he can build it. I mean, we talk about the scenery, but he can also build it into the program that he wants.
Yeah, he's got a lot to he's got some freedom there that he probably wouldn't have at USC. Do you agree?
I think he's got more freedom there than he would have at any of these Power 5 jobs that are going to come beating down his door if he can win the West, like some people are starting to think that he might.
Yeah, I heard somebody say that. I'm not sure about that guy. Hey, I'm now referring to Florida's loss as the Great Gator loss of 21. This thing has reached new heights as far as a pathetic low for Florida. The bottom line, Florida's 0-1 in conference play, and they are booking hotel rooms in Atlanta. I've never seen anything like it in my life.
What are they booking hotel rooms for in Atlanta? Is there a UFC fight in December? They all want to go.
Well, I didn't research that.
I'm not understanding what they're booking hotel rooms for. They're not winning.
But really, I'm serious though. If you follow the chats on a lot of these radio shows and these YouTubes, I mean, it's unreal. And it's the same people who are bragging in one breath. They're bragging about beating Georgia last year, but they're also saying, "Well, we would have beat Bama had we had Anthony Richardson." Hey, McFly, Georgia played you with their four-string quarterback, who, by the way, was beating you 14-0 when he got hurt.
Some guy was talking the other day about, Stetson Bennett may be leading Georgia to a title this year. So it's kind of hard for me to rip Stetson Bennett or let you do it. Can't do that.
Yeah, that guy's got a substance abuse problem.
I'm just saying that's what he said. He said when Stetson Bennett leads them into a national championship, you'll shut your mouth or something about Stetson Bennett. I can't let you badmouth Stetson Bennett now. You might offend people, sir.
I still think you underestimate the offensive genius that is Kirby Smart. You'll see in the end. It'll all work out.
Okay. Fair enough. We'll have to see how that happens. It's the whole show me state thing, man. You got to show me before I believe it,
I got you. Hey, I'll let you go with this.
Sure.
43-18, Rob. See you.
Very good. Have a great day. Megan joining us on the program. You can join us as well at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. I think the Ole Miss job is a great spot for Lane Kiffin. And man, they love him down there. Remember when he got there and there was video of someone that walked up to him and it was like handing him a baby and said, "Get you a burner phone." Whatever. That's funny. Show Memo online says Lane has kids in Cali. The dude would want to live by his kids. Yeah. But you've already been fired by, he was 28-16 or 28-15 at Southern Cal, and that gets you fired. If he goes 28-15 in his first 43 games at Ole Miss, they may build a statue for him. Just saying. All right, 803-978-1832 if you'd like to join us here on the program this afternoon. The college football playoff may be in kind of a meltdown mode because there's going to be some good teams if things shape up the way that I see them there that are not going to make the college football playoff, and that is a shame. 803-978-1832. Go Buck says he'll make more kids. That is a Macho Man Randy Savage comment right there. He'll make more kids. Yeah. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you here on the rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. I don't know if look, the LSU job is a great job, but man, I don't know if I'm buying that. I'd want to go to LSU over Ole Miss right now after I've already built myself up at Ole Miss. Yeah, the cream of the crop thing. There was a lot of cocaine in that. I think Macho Man and Sensational Sherry did lines of coke before they did their promos. I really believe that. You know what? Go Bucks. That is a valid comment. Love some Macho Man. Won't get fired for losing one game at Ole Miss. That's hilarious. I might get Kale to do we might do a live stream on Saturday night for the Gamecock Kentucky game. Would you guys be up for that? We did a live stream with you guys could call in, etc. Kale may lose his mind. Let me know if you guys would be into that. Would you guys like us to do a live stream for the Kentucky game? I mean, I can agree with you on that, Randall, but there's got to be a point where there's too much money, right? I mean, you're going to have to pay Coach O's staff off. I think he's got, 4 years left on his contract, like $21 million or some ridiculous number. No promises on that, Chris. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. A couple of comments there from the chat room. Go Bucks said, we're looking for the best. Make sure I give him full credit for his quote here because it was actually really good. We're trying to find out the best team, who the best team is. I've never watched a season of CFB and thought, well, maybe number 12 is the best. I can give you that. But the idea for 8 makes a lot of sense. An undefeated Cincinnati, an undefeated Oregon, an undefeated Oklahoma, an undefeated Penn State, and an undefeated Alabama at 5, or let's say Georgia wins and they're undefeated, and Alabama loses to them by 7 points or less. There's 6 right there. You could squeeze in 2 more and make really good football. The idea for 8 would make some sense. We'll see how that works out, but we'll take your calls on that at 803-978-1832. We were talking about Lane Kiffin. Maybe he's going to go back to Southern Cal. Randall says, hey, he would probably take the LSU job. Look at us trying to get rid of coaches that have jobs right now. I think the only coach in the SEC that's on the hot seat, though, is Ed Orgeron. There's some folks that are looking at Coach O like, And if he goes down to the land of the cowbell this weekend and loses, that's not going to go over well. The loss last year, even by his own words, it was embarrassing to lose to Mississippi State and have them throw for 600+ yards. The quarterback was KJ Costello or whatever his name is. I don't even think he's with the program anymore. I'd have to check. But you got lit up by somebody that nobody's heard of in your place with 2 first or second round draft picks at cornerback. You got 600 yards thrown on you. And I know that's from last season, but that's what they're going down to Mississippi State, and they're having to deal with. Now, Mississippi State this year, I don't think they're going to throw for 600 yards, but the idea of Mississippi State's run defense, which I think is like 8th in the country, that's pretty good. And LSU didn't put up 100 yards last week on who was it they played last week? It was some directional school from somewhere. So there's that. 803-978 1-832-803-978. 1-832. That is the number to call if you would like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Really quick here, a note from the Tennessee camp. Josh Heupel responds about whether he's going to use two quarterbacks against Florida. Wes Rucker, a Vols beat reporter, said, right now we're not leaning towards playing two quarterbacks Saturday night at Florida. You know, if I were Josh Heupel and I'm a 17-point underdog, why not say, hey, you know what? We might run two quarterbacks. We might run four quarterbacks. I don't know. Depends on how much cream cheese is on my bagel when I wake up in the morning. I have no clue. Just saying. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. Heupel did say, I don't have an update on the quarterback status right now. Joe's got some work during the week, of course, talking about Joe Milton. We'll find out tomorrow if some of the other guys, maybe you didn't see last week, we anticipate most of the guys being able to play, though when we get down to Gainesville, Milton, of course, injured himself in the loss to Pitt. So Hendon Hooker is the other guy that may have the opportunity, the Virginia Tech transfer, may have a chance to get some snaps down there for for Tennessee. I don't understand why you wouldn't do it. Make that Florida defense plan for all of it, especially if you don't really, really know. I mean, I can buy into that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Ryan says, it feels like Clemson is cycling out and SC is cycling in. Thoughts? Something is going bad for old Dabo. Clemson has not had a good week. We talked about that the other day. You know, you lose a guy that was one of your best defensive tackles, one of the better defensive tackles in the country, in Tyler Davis. He tears his pec. And then you lose the guy that waited behind Travis Etienne. And he just decided after Coach Sweeney made some comments about how he needed to grow up. And we don't know everything that happened there, but that's what we see on the surface. That's what we see on the surface there. And with that, he decides to transfer. Now, from one perspective, yeah, I mean, that's a bad week. But Clemson is still, if you look at the FPI, they're favored pretty much by double digits against the rest of their schedule. Now, as far as South Carolina on the rise, they've won 6 games in 2 seasons. They have to move forward. They've already won 2 games this year. They beat Kentucky on Saturday. They've won more games than they won last season. So, yeah, South Carolina is definitely on the rise. I don't think they're going to finish the season 2-10. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832 is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. My name is Rob Sanders. I've got 5 things that South Carolina has to beat if they want to win over Kentucky. We'll talk about that when we come back from our break. We'll also look ahead to a bunch of the big games that are coming up this weekend. Jonathan Reynolds will join us tomorrow. We will talk about NC State and the matchup with Clemson. Of course, Jonathan used to be a host here for us at Fox Sports Radio. Now he's saving souls, and he is a big follower of NC State and can tell us everything we need to know about the Wolfpack program. So there you go. Folks are asking me about who the backup quarterback is at Clemson. It's Tyson Fomachu. That's the backup quarterback at Clemson. Folks asking online. All right, 803-978-1832. We'll get into the stuff we just talked about when we come back. Don't forget, by the way, our best Gamecock coverage with our sister station across the hall, 100.1 FM WVOC. Excuse me, not 100.1, 103.5 FM WVOC, 560 AM WVOC. Pop yourself on the hand for that, Rob. You gave the wrong station out. Find that on the iHeartRadio app. Everything you need to know about the Gamecocks. 3 hours pregame and postgame with myself, Tim Frisbee, the former Gamecock wide receiver, and Justin Hall. We'll have all of that for you on Saturday as we bring home the best Gamecock coverage right here in Columbia. So be sure to check us out. Also, we'll be streaming on the 103.5 FM Facebook and Twitter pages, so you can watch our beautiful faces. There you go with that. More of the rundown when we come back. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Tyson Fomachu, that's his name. I didn't name him, Megan. You know, Clemson had issues before, like with when Deshaun Watson came in his freshman year, and they were playing Cole Stout, and they were playing Cole Stout, and Cole Stout was sucking, and they had to lose to Florida State for him to put Deshaun Watson in. Alan says, I often confuse old employers who conveniently have let him go. Well, let's see here. I had part-time jobs when I was in high school and in college. My first job out of college was in the Coast Guard. I was in the Coast Guard for 4 years. I worked for Boys and Girls Club for 2 years, and then I've been working at iHeartRadio for 17 years. So I've had like basically 3 full-time employers. I wasn't fired at any of them. So that just kind of makes you look silly. And why are you always typing in caps? Are you so old you can't see the damn screen? What is wrong with you, Alan? Randall says South Carolina finishes with a better than record than LSU. Oof. No, sir, I haven't. iHeartRadio owns 7 stations in this market. I've worked for them for 17, 18 years now, something like that. Ryan, what you're saying makes sense, but Clemson can't just say, hey, we want to move to another conference. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Fireball. Ryan says the whole week conference thing, they've won 2 of the last 5 national titles. Being in a supposedly weak conference doesn't really hold a lot of water there. So there's that too. I could see Alan sitting on his porch yelling at kids that are on the other side of the street. I don't want your shadow on my grass. Dinosaur QB, I don't get that, Ryan. I had the weirdest job in the Coast Guard. I worked on the Mississippi River. I did search and rescue, and I worked with buoys. That's what I did. I also did fisheries and worked with law enforcement on the Gulf Coast. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call. I was mentioning, someone said Clemson being in a weak conference may hinder them. I said, yeah, Clemson's won 2 out of the last 5 national titles, so that's kind of silly. Megan says, Rob, do you really want to count national titles and conferences? I mean, if you want to just throw out there Alabama, sir, sure, have at it. This whole thing where I think there's a level of folks that want to throw shade at Clemson. Clemson's a great program. They actually win things like the national title. Just saying. I know that's kind of hard. Georgia fans get upset by that. I mean, we know Georgia, but their Super Bowl was Clemson this year. Let's hope that they take that monumental defense and actually do something with it instead of going to a bowl game against a G5 team this year. Because that defense is championship caliber, man. Championship caliber. All right, so this is my things with Kentucky that South Carolina has to do. All right, the first thing is that they've got to look past the fact that, hey, you've lost, 6 out of the last 7 to the Wildcats. And Coach Stoops, he's gone 6-1 against them. So there's that. Get rid of that. All right? Think of it from the perspective of, yeah, they won 6 out of 7 games, but the majority of the guys when game 1 was there were like, 10, 11, something like that. So let that go. Also, they've got to figure out a way to slow down Chris Rodriguez a little bit. I don't know if that's stacking the line and daring Will Levis to beat them. If you look at the tape on him, yeah, he can throw the ball, but in reality, do you think that he has the arm to take you to a win in the SEC on the road? So I think that South Carolina needs to keep Chris Rodriguez in check, and the way you do that is stacking the box and daring Will Levis and the Kentucky receivers to beat you. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the rundown. The other end of it, too, for South Carolina at number 3, as the 5 things they've got to do, the offensive line has to play well. Now, I know Shane Beamer told us I think he said it's a load of crap, people talking about the offensive line. You can make the argument that this offensive line, the majority of it was there last year when they led with Kevin Harris to being the SEC's leading rusher. I think that the offensive line needs to shore up the leaks. That's important. 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob. Our offensive line has been nothing like it was last year. Is that something to do with the way they're blocking now?
Right. It's a different scheme, and maybe they're still learning the scheme. We know that from last year they were capable of putting together holes that were big enough for Kevin Harris to do his thing. But on the other end, before last week's game, Kevin Harris really hadn't had the opportunity to get out there and get a good bit of carries. So maybe that's something that we'll see this weekend. Keep going with the medicine of giving Kevin Harris the ball and letting him lead the way.
Well, it seems like they're trying to play every running back they have and not getting into, some kind of rhythm.
They did give him, he had 15 carries against Georgia. Now, respectfully, no one's really going to run on Georgia this year.
Yeah.
But I think that if he gets 20 carries against Kentucky, I think that's a win for the Gamecocks in my mind.
Well, it's like they had McDowell at the end of the East Carolina game. They kind of brought it home for them. And, the first game was kind of everybody got to run.
If you rewatch that last drive, the offensive line actually was able to push around the East Carolina defense. I think they had finally worn them out. They're not going to wear out many SEC teams like that, though.
No, yeah. And, I think, Kentucky has the edge on us in our coaching right now. I think they know who they are and know what they want to do. And I don't know if we know who we are or what we want to do yet. Because, Luke Doty just, he's only played, 3 quarters?
Well, he played last season, too.
So far, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I get
it. But he's not been able to, get into the, get in a good rhythm with him.
It's not really fair to throw the Georgia thing in there because I think the Georgia defense is outstanding.
Yeah.
And until someone does something against them, I still think they're the best defense I've seen in a long time. So
can Kentucky seize the spot of the number 3 team in the East this year?
I think they can be the number 2 team in the East because their schedule is not very hard. I mean, you look at their schedule, the majority of their tough games are at home. They do I think they have to go to Georgia, but I think they get LSU at home. And I don't think LSU is really that good either. They get Florida at home as well.
Florida was really surprising to me against Alabama, the way they actually came back from some adversity.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm not really buying the Florida stuff right now. I think that that Kentucky has an opportunity that they could finish second. I think they could leapfrog Florida. I really do.
Do you see Tennessee getting back in it anytime soon?
People have been telling us Tennessee's coming back forever. They're like the SEC's version of Texas. Oh, we're going to be back. Woo!
Well, they got to get some players there at Tennessee for them to get back because they've had so many leave. But
I don't know. I mean, Josh Heupel.
Have they found their coach?
Maybe. I mean, it's what, a couple games in. They're not getting embarrassed by teams. They're not having games like Georgia State, and they were competitive against Pittsburgh, and they ended up Milton getting hurt, and that kind of hindered them a little bit. But I think Tennessee.
That Pittsburgh game, they should have won that game.
Well,
I watched it.
The big thing with Tennessee, though, in my opinion, is that it's going to take time, and I don't know how long they're going to give him. That's kind of the big thing.
And what are your thoughts on the quarterback out of Utah just quitting?
Well, he was the guy that Charlie, I can't remember his last name.
Brewer.
Charlie Brewer. He was really good at Baylor, but apparently Utah, something's going on there. Remember, Jake Bentley was there, and
Jake Bentley went there. Yeah,
they just go through quarterbacks. So I don't know what's going on in Utah, man. I wish I had more of an ear to the ground on that program, but you see lots of people transferring out of there, and that says something.
Well, you don't see a lot of quarterbacks that transfer having some success. You see a couple of them here and there. You saw Burrow, and you saw the kid from Oklahoma, but it seems like these quarterbacks that leave think that they're the best thing since, like bread.
Sliced bread, yeah.
Not the case for them, man.
Everybody's trying to, if your team is like right there on the cusp of being great, but you need some more stripes at quarterback, everybody's trying to find the next Joe Burrow or Cam Newton or whatever, and they're willing to roll the dice on a lot of these young men. But I don't know, man. The quarterback position is one of those things that I think you have to have good coaching, and I think everything has to line up for it to be perfect. And in some spots, it just doesn't work.
Did you see Paul Feinbaum's comments that Penn State would be at the bottom end of the SEC if they played there?
Yeah, but that's what Paul Feinbaum says. I mean,
paid to do.
He's the guy that is the owner of the original SEC lower back tattoo. He's got the logo and Nick Saban's face, and they come together like two football helmets. So that's what I expect from Paul Feinbaum.
All right, man.
Thanks, man. Have a great day. All right, 803-978-1832. Quick break, and we come back. We'll get we'll look at the final couple of things for South Carolina to do to beat Kentucky right here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Begging Megan, if you're getting your SEC lower back tattoo, I don't want it to be the size of a quarter. You need to put your pride out there. I want it big like this Ron John logo. Big, huge tattoo. I don't think so there, Caden. You're probably right about that, Randall. Hey, you guys let me know about if you guys would tune in for a stream for Saturday night with Jackpot and I for the Kentucky South Carolina game. Let me know. We might float that, see if that'll work. Oh, the ACC is having their Operation Basketball, which is like media days for basketball. I'm debating on whether I should go up there. Would you guys be into that? I might get to interview Coach K. That might be cool since it's his final season. I don't know. Kentucky game is a 7:00 kickoff. Stop playing. Colby says, how can he prove to me he's a top 25 head coach? Stop sending Stetson Bennett in there. That would be good. And I don't know, win the division when you've got, top 3 talent. Don't let Mullenhead Mullen beat you. That could be good. How about win the national title because you have plenty of talent to do it? As a Georgia fan, you're not upset that you've had all these great teams and you haven't won a national title? Be honest, Caden. The talent you have, you should have at least one national title with him. No, there's plenty. We got 3 lines, brother. Call on in, Colby. Remember, you can't curse on the radio. Final segment of the rundown here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Out to the phones we go. Good afternoon. Welcome to the rundown.
Hey, how's it going? So listen, I want to talk about Clemson and NC State.
Yeah, man, what you got?
I think Clemson's going to whip NC State.
Yeah, why would you say that? I mean, they've scored 17 points against FBS teams. You think they're going to go in and just beat up on NC State?
I do. I think Clemson between the two teams still has the better roster. I know it's been crazy the last few weeks for you guys, but I just feel that between the two of them, if one team jumps out to a 14-point lead, I think Clemson has the capability to do it, and I just feel they have a pull-away capability a little bit more than NC State. And I feel like people are overrating NC State here. I think Clemson's going to win about 31-17, 28-14, something like that. I think you guys are going to be a little surprised by what Clemson does this weekend.
You think that NC State's going to score the first offensive touchdown against Clemson? I have their offense hasn't been anything to write home about.
No, I agree. That's what I'm saying. I think Clemson is going to win the game like 28-14 or 31-17 or something. I think that your run game is going to come through a little bit more than you think. I think you're going to grind them down. I think they're going to make some mistakes, and I think that you guys are going to pull away from them. At -10, I like Clemson on the -10.
All right, man. Hey, I appreciate you calling the program, man. Thanks so much.
Yep.
All right, there you go. I'm not buying the Clemson offense yet. Not buying it. 17 points against FBS teams. That's not good. Not good at all. The fourth thing that South Carolina has to do to beat Kentucky is get Kevin Harris 20 carries. I think if you get him 20 carries, he's going to give you 100+ yards on the ground. That is just the way that it works. A very simple number. 20 carries for Kevin Harris equals win for the Gamecocks, in my opinion. And finally, the fifth thing that I have on my list here for South Carolina to beat Kentucky, I think that they have to avoid putting the ball on the ground. And what I mean by that is that Kentucky hasn't been forcing a lot of turnovers, but their defense last season did. If the turnover bug swings back and away from Kentucky, and South Carolina has forced turnovers in their 3 games that they played this season, I think they need to keep that on their side if they want to have a realistic chance of beating Kentucky. And I'm not saying Kentucky's a much better team, but what the caller said earlier makes sense. Kentucky knows what they're doing. South Carolina is still trying to figure out who they are. 803-978-1832. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, it's Colby.
Colby, what's up, brother?
Hey, man. Just want to say, first of all, I love the show, love what you're doing, love the content.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. But I had a question for you.
Sure.
It's the Kirby Smart issue that you don't think he's a top 25 head coach. I understand your opinion. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't agree with you. And if you could explain why, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, here's my thing with Kirby Smart. I think he's an absolutely great recruiter, an absolutely great defensive coach. But I just think that it's every season, it just seems like there's something that keeps Georgia from being what they should be. And with the talent that Georgia has, he should have won at least one national championship. I mean, I firmly believe that. Now, I know that injuries kind of derailed them last year. Maybe I just expect more from the Georgia program than the Georgia fans do. Maybe that's part of it. But with
Georgia. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm sorry, but in 2017, when they lost to Alabama on the last second throw, I think they were a better team than Alabama that year. Now, I know it's one play here and one play there, but the reality is I just think that he's come up empty with a top roster. And if you have that many opportunities, which he's had, and he falls short, it kind of falls down the ladder for me. Now, I said top 25. Maybe that's just me mocking, but the reality is I don't have a problem with him as far as being a defensive-minded coach. I don't have a problem with him bringing in all the talent because he does that. It's just he can't finish the job. And if you can't finish the job, you're not a closer. I don't want anything to do with you. That's all.
So are you saying you don't want him as a top 25 head coach? Like if you're a Clemson fan, you don't want him as a top 25 head coach, or you don't think he's top 25 like overall?
Look, you'd have to put him in the top 25 overall if you're rating coaches, but in my opinion, I wouldn't want him coaching my team because I think he constantly falls short. And that's just the way that I feel. Look, he's a good coach. That's your opinion. Yeah, he's a good coach. Yeah. But you keep climbing the mountain, and then all of a sudden you're getting kicked in the teeth when you're at the top. When in reality, he's put together teams that should have a national title.
You're right, and he doesn't start the right quarterback. He does well on defense. Look, I think we can both agree on that.
The defense, I said the Georgia defense this season is one of the best that I've seen. The South Carolina game, though, he sent Stetson Bennett out there again, and you're not developing the quarterbacks that are 2 5-star guys that are going to be there next year, and Bennett's not.
Yep, Stetson Bennett will be there.
Oh, okay. Well, he has more eligibility, but the reality is, do you think that you can win with these? We don't know if you can win with these guys that are highly recruited, that are 5-star guys. We know there is a ceiling though with Stetson Bennett.
Yeah, we can win games. Yes, we can beat the Ole Misses. I mean, we can beat the Arkansas, but we can't beat the Bamas.
Right.
With Stetson Bennett.
Right, but you have the opportunity with a couple of the other guys who are highly touted, and you're not even getting them snaps, especially in a game against South Carolina that you had well in hand. Why are those guys sitting?
To the choir.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I don't understand about him. Why can't he develop quarterbacks and then develop the guys that are behind them so that they can come in and do what they need to do? I mean, JT Daniels is great, but he's an import.
Yeah.
So there you
go. Just like Justin Fields was.
Exactly.
Or not Justin.
Well, no.
JT.
Yeah. Yep.
But anyway, getting back to my point, you said that I know I understand that you don't want him as your coach in the top 25, but you said he's a top 25 head coach in general.
Yeah, if you rate the coaches, you have to put him in there. I'm just saying with my ratings, I don't want him because he can't finish the job. That's all. And that's just my opinion. Okay. That's just my opinion.
So he's a top 25 coach in general, though.
Right. Yeah, you have to give him that, but in the Rob ratings, I don't want him because he can't finish the job, and his love affair with Stetson Bennett would drive me insane.
Well, he did finish the job against Clemson.
He certainly did, but the offense didn't. It was his defense.
And what was Clemson ranked at that time?
I think Clemson was what, 3rd, 4th?
No, I'm talking about Dabo and your head coaching.
I don't think Dabo's a top 10
1
coach.
or 2 or 3.
No, I don't think Dabo's a top 10 coach. I mean, for me, I like Nick Saban, and then you can go down from there.
You don't think Dabo's a top 10 coach? Really?
No, I think that Dabo uses a lot of his.
I think he's top 7 or 6. I think so.
And that's fair, but I think Dabo Swinney leans a lot on his coordinators, and that's what makes him good. I hate to cut you short, brother, but I gotta go to a break, man.
Hey,
I appreciate you being.
Love the show.
Appreciate you being respectful. Have a great day, man.
Yes, sir.
All right, there you go. Tomorrow on the Rundown, Jonathan Reynolds joins us here to break down the NC State games. We'll talk with him and a lot more. Appreciate you guys joining us here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. Well, Nick Saban finishes the job. Ed Orgeron's won a national title with less talent, Caden. Just saying. All right, guys. Appreciate y'all, man. We'll see you later.